The following thoughts on Hoppe Hour do not represent Cox Media Group or its sponsoring. Anything you hear may and will be used against you. Thank you. Voted as best local podcast in Tampa Bay by the Creative Loafing. You're listening to Hoppe Hour.
What up? What is happening? This is Hoppe Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe. And on the phone line from the Paul and Young Ron Show, which is on Big 105.9 in Miami and on 94.3 Real Radio in West Palm Beach, the host, Paul Castronovo, is on the phone line. What's up, dude?
You almost butchered the name. I know. It's like people always say, Castronovo, why didn't you change your name? And I always thought, well, why should I change my name? A lot of guys doing radio, call themselves some goofy name. Or but I know too many people. I got a built-in audience with Castronovo. I grew up in South Florida, so it works.
Was there ever a point when you thought maybe you would come with some like wacky radio name like back in the 90s when everyone was into that? Or was it always a thing when you wanted to use your own brand?
No, it was in the beginning. Someone was like, I think you should call yourself Paul Castle. I think that would call yourself Paul Castle. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm an Italian, proud of my name.
I'm the same way, man, because my name's Ryan Hoppe, and it's so unique. It's not like Ryan Johnson. Like, when you Google me, it's all about me. I'm not just saying it to be cocky. I'm just saying it's so easy to find me. You make a brand for yourself. Like, I used to want to go by the wacky name of Rhino, and that's just lame because everybody's a rhino. So it's like...
I'm glad you didn't do that. And you know what? When I started, there was no Google, so I didn't have any brand. There was no Paul brand back in the... I just wanted to build a name, and I figured... Listen, if I'm out and about and someone's like, "Wait, Paul Castronovo, I know that guy. Yeah, he's on the radio." So it's worked for me. And you know what? And for my parents, with a unique last name, and my parents for years, they go everywhere they go. If they say their name, people are like, "Is your son on the radio?" And they love that.
How proud were they when you went into radio? Because my mom always believed in me, but my dad first thought I was more of like a radio geek. So for you, were your parents always seeing potential in you, or did you have to prove them?
I remember a conversation when I was getting ready to go off to college, the University of Florida, and they were like, excuse me, I got a frog in the throat. They were like, why don't you go to law school? Take some classes, go to law school, and then if you want to do your little radio thing, you could do your little radio thing later. But I was like, no, I don't think so. And thankfully, I didn't go to law school. My radio career has been, very successful, and I work a lot less than a lot of my lawyer buddies.
Now, you've been on the radio for so long. You are very successful. But was there ever a point when you were nervous that your radio career might come to an end? Like, let's say the ratings slipped, or you were beginning to burn out, or has it always been a good time for you?
No. There was a period of time early, I was bouncing around like we all do early in our career, trying to find our way. And I was in Birmingham, Alabama, and I had just been fired for playing the University of Florida Gator fight song on the flagship station for Alabama football. And I had an agent, and she was like, "Man, there's nothing out there, but I think I got you a gig in Buffalo." And I swear to God, I was going to quit. I was going to quit and move. I was not going to go to Buffalo. I'll figure something out, but I'm not moving to Buffalo. I'm a Florida kid, And thankfully, I didn't make that move. And there was one other time in the career when I had an owner of the radio station who was just a flaming a-hole, and he would not let. It was young Ron and I. We were together on the show, and he wouldn't let us talk to each other. This is 1992 or something like that. I would be on the air, and he would be on the air, but we couldn't talk to each other. If you picture a two-person show that couldn't talk to each other, it was ridiculous. And I was getting ready to. I was saying, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm killing myself getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I can't talk to my radio partner. I was going to start an ad agency, and then good things happened, and I left and went to a different company, and the rest is history.
How great has Miami embraced you guys? Because you guys kick ass. You guys are legendary down there. How great has the fan base been down there?
Someone gave me a statistic the other day, which was I've been on the air longer than Don Shula was the coach of the Dolphins. Now, in my mind, that's just staggering. My partner Ron and I have been going 27 years, and I met some clients today, and they're like, "Yeah, my dad and I used to he'd take me to school in the morning, and the two of us would just listen to you guys and crack up. And here I am, a businessman today in my 40s, and I'm still listening. And that makes, A, me feel like an old bastard, but B, it's very rewarding.
Isn't it amazing that when you're on the radio, you just feel like you're talking to a friend, and it's just like a room of people talking, because that's how I feel when I do the podcast or I'm on the Mike Kelta show. But then you meet people in public, and you're surprised that us talking influences them. You know what I mean? It makes them happy. Isn't it weird how us talking? Yeah.
Great feeling. It really is. I mean, especially if someone's going through some crap in their life, and we all go through crap in our life, and then, you help them get through crap in your life. It's like when my wife was sick years ago, and we chose to go on the air with that information. With cancer, we helped a ton of people who were like, holy crap, if it can happen to Paul and Gina, then shit, excuse my language, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on your podcast.
It's
sorry.
Okay.
But if it can happen to Paul and Gina, then God, it can happen to anybody. And a lot of people went and got checked, and, I believe we saved lives. That's awesome.
How hard is it, though, when there's things going on in your personal life that are very traumatic, or it's just sidetracking you? How hard is it to get up at 4 a.m. and then do a morning show in a major market? Or once the mic is on, does it help you forget about it for a few hours?
That's an awesome question. The answer is I've been through more than my share, than most people, along with dealing with my wife's breast cancer. My mother and wife were also in a head-on collision about 7 years ago, where both of them were nearly killed. My mom broke her neck. My wife was severely injured for months in the hospital. So it was, going to the radio, was tough, but once I got there, it was very cathartic. It was helpful. It's two-sided, Once I turn the mics on, oh, good, I can forget about it for a few minutes. And then when the mics go off, and you start crying again.
That's what I like about you, man, is you seem real. Like, you don't have a fake name, and you're not one of the radio guys that begins like radio wars or like makes fun of people. What I've liked about your show is you and Ron are very open on air, and you always are real, which is a reason why I've been a fan of your show for years.
Well, we have one thing we want to do. We don't want to be controversial. We don't want to say that, we're not shock jocks. We sat in on a focus group about 20 years ago with some of our most diehard listeners, and they pretty much flat out told us what they wanted. They just wanted to have a few laughs. They love cracking up with us in the morning. So we made a conscious effort that day. We're not going to be anything but a fun, have a few laughs morning show. Howard Stern, I competed with him for years. We going against Howard. I wasn't going to out Howard by trying to do this back when he was very blue. So we didn't need to be the blue show. I mean, hey, we're a guy show, so we're dirty as we can be. We're not like we used to be. My God, we were on an alternative rock station for years, and you know how that is. But you evolve and grow. And as far as radio wars go, I mean, we had one of those loudmouths in our town for a while. He came in our market, and every day for the entire year, he went after us. And now I had a 20 share, and he had a 0 share in rating. And we sat down. I go, I'm a New York Italian. I want to take him out back and kick his butt, and go on the air and say, no one's going to talk about me. But I had a manager who was like, dude, if you don't say a word, if you say something, then your audience is going to go, oh, there's another show in town. Why expose his audience, my audience, to his show? So I just kept my mouth shut, never said a word until the day he was fired. Then I blasted him. It didn't last. I think it was about a year.
How awesome is it that your fan base is so loyal that even when these new shows come into town, they are loyal to the Paul and Young Ron show?
Greatest story ever. Lex and Terry came into Miami, and Ron and I, when Howard Stern left Big 105.9, which is the station I'm on now, and he left radio, I guess Clear Channel at the time, they fired him, whatever the real was. And they gave us an opportunity, hey, you guys want to move over to from 94.9 Zeta, the alternative rock station, to go to Big, and we were like, God, I don't know, and they made us a nice offer. We made the move. They brought in Lex and Terry to go on the station we were on, Zeta, and those guys kind of made us screwed up a little bit, and they went on the air and started trashing us in our town, and they showed up at a concert. Hey, everybody, we're Lex and Terry, and the crowd started chanting Paul and Ron, and boot him off the stage. And I have that audio clip to this day. You know, I'm sure it wasn't their finest hour, but I was proud. It was fun for me to hear that. You know, again, the radio war thing, not my gig.
Now, how great has it been working in a major market like Miami? Like, what are some of the best parts about that city?
Well, I mean, it is a major market, but, you know, being in the station I'm on is a classic rock station. We target males in general. But don't forget, you got Miami-Dade County is the big challenge for us is Miami-Dade County is 60% Latin and 20% black. So, you know, traditionally the listener of a classic rock station would be a white dude. So you have a smaller, limited audience if you're just going to target that guy. So I get it because I grew up here. I completely understand Cuban guys because they're all my best friends. I grew up with them It's been tough for a lot of guys coming into this market to figure it out. That's why many have failed, and they have. I mean, it's so for us being here in this market, and much like Tampa. I mean, I got my boat in the backyard. I grew up surfing and fishing and diving. I had every major sports team here. Even though many of us have sucked for so long, it's still fun to be able to have the Dolphins, to have the Heat and the Marlins. We got a couple of World Series out of them, and the Panthers. So we've had major sports teams. We had fantastic weather. Being in this market, to me, and I had chances early on, like I'd go to New York, go to L.A., and I wanted to be here. I probably made less money, but if I'd have gone to L.A., I'd have done better. But I think that looking back, and I just signed a new 5-year deal, so I'm not going anywhere. Looking back, I think I made the right move.
I really want to make this thing work in Tampa Bay because there's something about radio fans in Florida, Paul. They're very loyal. They know their radio, and they just are P1 listeners. You know what I mean? Like, there is something about Florida listeners. They're very badass.
I must admit, I will say that I've been following that market of yours for a long time, and I've watched a lot of that stuff that goes on. It seems to me that the Tampa listeners really have perhaps they use radio more than just as a major appliance. And I know that my audience is very loyal, but also Miami is different than Tampa because it's a lot more transient, the Miami-Fort Lauderdale market. You know, we're all also on in West Palm, so you know people don't come and go out of West Palm as much as they do Miami. So I think that you guys may have the more loyal radio savvy listener as opposed to we got just a bunch of party people that are like, oh yeah, Paul and Ron, we're part of the fabric.
What are some of the craziest things that have ever happened, like maybe back in the day when you would go to some crazy parties down there in Miami? Anything that comes to your mind?
Well, I mean, we did a barbecue one time. We used to do the Paul and Ron backyard barbecue where we'd show up at someone's yard. We'd, you know, have it like almost on a makeover. We'd bring a grill, and we'd bring burgers, bring cases of beer. They get to bring their friends, and we'd put a rock band in their backyard. So we'd go to these small, we'd do like a home, and we call it a home invasion. And we'd invade their home, and I'll never forget it. We're in the backyard with listeners. We're taking pictures, and these guys put out big old piles of blow and cocaine. I'm like, we got to get out of here, man. What if we do? Ron and I are looking at each other like, we just brought the beer and the cupcakes and the ribs. You guys can do the blow after we leave. So I've seen some crazy stuff that way. But, you know, there's also there's a whole scene, a whole Miami Beach scene where, you know, the Velvet Rope, the nightclub and all that. It's our audience. That's not us. The glitz and glamour stuff, that's for the dance, that whole dance crowd that Miami's got.
How would you break down Miami? I feel like sometimes it gets a bad rap just because of the party scene and a lot of people that might be racist because of the Cubans. So how would you break it down as a city? Because Tampa is very transplant, and there's the bridges. So there's Clearwater, Tampa, St. Pete, Sarasota. How would you break down Miami as a city?
Well, I look at it different. I mean, because Fort Lauderdale is massive. So you get this humongous audience in Fort Lauderdale. And I have people that live in Coral Springs and Fort Lauderdale and Deerfield Beach, Boca Raton, that never go to Miami. It's there, and in case if they have to go once a year, they go to Joe's Stone Crab on Miami Beach, or if they have friends in town that go to Miami. So everybody's aware of Miami. There's a sense of pride. Hey, man, Miami Dolphins, that's our town. But they don't really live in Miami. I mean, if you get what I'm saying, it's 60 miles away. It's there. If we have to go, it's a royal pain in the butt. Now, for me, I love. Oh, of course, someone's beeping in. Sorry, dude? But for me, I love Miami. I mean, I live in Boca, which is maybe an hour, 45 minutes away. I'll go to Heat game. We'll go to we'll get a hotel down there, stay at the Fontainebleau, hit the killer restaurants. I fish like a crazy person. A lot of my good friends have boats in the area. Bouncer Smith is a famous fishing captain. I fish with him. He's on my show every week. So Miami's unbelievable.
How would you describe the fan base down there? Because it gets a lot of negative PR when it comes to the Heat fans when LeBron was in town, and sometimes they don't attend the Marlins or.
Well, okay, I'll give you the heads up on the sports thing around here. There's a nice core of people that grew up here, live and breathe for the team. But the Marlins effed up. They screwed up. They had everybody, and then they dismantled the team, and then they took the team and they built a stadium even further south away from their fan base. So that's on them. They thought that their fan base would drive to downtown Miami. Well, let me tell you something. For a guy from Palm Beach County or even Fort Lauderdale to get to a Tuesday night Marlin game at 7 o'clock downtown Miami, forget it. It's just not going to happen. Not at 80 games a week. On a Saturday, and the Yankees are in town, sure, the people will go. But, again, you've heard the same routine in Tampa. Hey, man, I'm going fishing instead. It's more of a pain. There's too many things to do. Then when it comes to LeBron, he can kiss my butt. He had it here. He could have left here. He screwed Pat Riley, and he'd rather be in Cleveland than South Florida. I can't even imagine. I think right now he wishes he was still here.
I don't know why he left. It's very odd to me because Cleveland has the curse, and their owner up there is a complete moron that does not know how to manage a team. So I think it was a very bad decision to leave.
We've speculated we went through that crap for a lot of time of the year, and I think that basically it was his wife was like, "We're going back home, baby. You ain't gonna be down here. Mm-hmm. You ain't gonna be down here with all these girls and all these crazy." You know what it is? I think this is true. You can feel like a fish out of water if you live in the wrong spots in Miami. I mean, if you think about it, he's a small town guy from Akron, and he was living in the middle of a very wealthy area, but also extremely Latin area. So if your next door neighbors and everybody around you is Latin, you sort of feel like a little out of place. So I've heard some stories about him that he felt that way.
But at the same time, if he really wants to win rings, Paul, I think he would have had a better chance maybe in a few years. The team rebuilds itself. I don't see him ever winning in Cleveland. I mean, I'm very confused about why they got rid of David Blatt. I find that very bizarre. I can't figure it out.
I'm happy for watching them suffer and go through, even though they're in first place, go through hard times because I wish nothing but ill will on LeBron, even though he brought us championships. I'm a homer. Sorry.
What do you think of Ryan Tannehill? What's your take on him?
Tough kid, nice guy. Perhaps we had the wrong coaches in place year after year after year. I keep, I'll be watching the game. Going, I go to all the games, or if I didn't go, I'm watching. I'm a huge fan. You hear my stupid dog barking?
Yeah, it's all good.
Buddy, get in the house, dude. I interviewed Adam Gase, the new Dolphin head coach, and he's a quarterback guru, and if he can't do it, I guarantee you, if Ryan Tannehill's not turning it around in the first few games, they're going to start looking. I believe they're going to draft a quarterback. I really do. I think they have to. They can't. The guy hasn't done anything.
Do you ever get mad at the Dolphins, or do you just kind of get content that they're going to be average? Because I used to get so mad at the Bears because I'm from Chicago, but now I'm just like, whatever. It's the same thing every year.
I really believe. I think the Dolphins hate me and they hate the fans at some point. That's what I feel. I get so frustrated. I'm friends with Marino, not to drop a name, but I mean, because I've been around a long time, and he's Italian and I'm Italian, so we have to be friends. And you look at what he accomplished and then what happened after he left, which is nothing. And I blame poor management, ownership decisions. I mean, things could – if friggin' Nick Saban had taken Drew what's his name? My mind is drawing a blank. New Orleans Saints quarterback. Hello?
Drew Brees.
Thank you. Brees, instead of Donovan McNabb, we had that chance, and he passed. Everything would have been different. He would have stayed, and Alabama wouldn't have won 15 national championships. Maybe we would have been good. But you know what? Here we go again. It's funny. I've been every time the Dolphins get a new coach, we get them on the air, and we have these same conversations. Hey, you're the new coach of the Dolphins. Blah blah blah. So the new guy, 37. Maybe they'll stick with him. One thing's got to stay. They got to stop changing. They got to just get consistent, find somebody good, and get with them.
Now, have you ever been a guy that's been known for being outspoken about the Dolphins? Like, have you ever made, media coverage for your rants on it? Because what I can tell is you're very passionate and you're very outspoken about it. So I can imagine sometimes they're like, here's what Paul said this morning. Does that ever happen?
More so on for the Marlins, I have been. I mean, I've been pretty outspoken about the Marlins over the years and gotten some pretty good coverage on that stuff. There was a time where I was doing some TV stuff in town, and when Nick Saban rubbed everybody the wrong way, and there was a point where the town was done with him. So I started dressing up as Nick Saban and doing a TV feature every week. And I remember I got to him. He did one of his press conferences, and he's like, "I see you guys on TV making fun of me." And that was my proud moment. But I'm also a huge Dolphin fan, and I work for the flagship station, so I don't want to be totally dickish about it,
Was Nick Saban a guy that just didn't really get along with anybody in the media? Because I really wasn't watching the Dolphins back then. But was he just a guy that, when he first came to town, he immediately rubbed everyone the wrong way? Absolutely.
I'll give you a perfect example. I'm chairman of the Miami Dolphins fishing tournament, so every year we throw this big event, and it's a huge party, and the whole team shows up, and from Jimmy Johnson on down, his coach would show up, walk in the room, shake everybody's hand, take pictures, come on the mic. Hey, everybody, you ready for the season? Nick Saban's coming, okay? It's his first year. Now, don't forget, he had just gotten there. Our fishing tournament's in May, so no one had even met him yet. And we're getting all these security calls, or Coach Saban's going to be coming in 10 minutes. He'll be here in 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, so listen when he's here. Well, he wants to create a diversion. He's going to come in. His people are going to come in the back door, or the front door, and he's going to come around the back so he doesn't get mobbed. Now, let me tell you something. No one gave a crap about him, okay? He hadn't won all those championships at Alabama. He'd just been the coach he created this thing about it. He thought he was big time. So we get him in the back door, and he's like, okay, I need to be sequestered. I go on stage, I do my thing, and I build him up. After he gets done with the speech, he pulls me aside. He says, hey, I like you. I like what you did. He goes, play your cards right, and I'll give you access. And trust me, you want access. And he walked away. And I thought that right moment, what a pompous jerk. And I never got access, by the way. I don't even know what he meant by that, to be honest with you. Was he going to feed me information? Was I going to be one of his insiders? I don't know.
Do you ever find it sad when these sports figures or even celebrities, it just gets to their head and they become a different person, or people on radio, anybody that's a public figure? Do you find it sad when they just become different people?
Yeah, I haven't seen that too much in the comedy world or the celebrity world, but I think that coaches are different people. I really do. I think that to do what those guys do, they have to be type A. Look at Belichick. I mean, you can't knock what he's done. He's just, I interviewed the new coach. I said, are you friends with your players? He goes, only one, Peyton Manning. So.
Yeah, so, who is the coolest athlete? Who is the best, most humble athlete you've met while your time in Miami? Which is one that comes to your mind besides Dan Marino, where you're like, that guy's pretty cool?
I'll tell you who. Ryan Hunter-Ray, who's won Indy 500s, is probably the nicest guy you'll ever meet in your life. And in general, any hockey player for the Florida Panthers, they're all great dudes.
What's so great about them? Because hockey players seem pretty cool. It seems like because it's not the most top-watch sport that they appreciate the fans they get. Is that how it is?
I don't know. I think that, and I really can speak from the players from a few years ago because what I do as a host is I kind of ride the wave of what people are talking about, and nobody's been talking about the Panthers for a long time. They're hot right now, but I've gotten to know some of the players over the years, John Van Beesbrook and Brian Screwlin, old schoolers, and they just feel like they want to sit down and have a beer with you. They don't think they're too important, whereas sometimes some of the younger NFL guys think they're a little too important. Brian Hartline, who was a Dolphin receiver, and is now with the Browns, is one of the greatest guys ever. Kid around with you, joke around. And as far as the old school guys, one of my regular, Zach Thomas. I mean, there's nobody better.
Yeah.
Sweetest guy you'll ever meet. Do you a favor. Doesn't care about the publicity angle. Would rather just live a life with his kids and his wife and not be a superstar. Meanwhile, he's loaded.
Now, before I let you go, where do you want to see your show in 5 years since you signed this new contract?
I want to have your podcast, dude.
Hell yeah, dude. That's an honor.
We just cut a new deal where there's going to be some syndication opportunities coming, and I think I'd like to pop on a few other markets in the state of Florida. I'm being realistic. Would my show play in Cincinnati?
No.
Not the way it sounds now. No. But would it play in Fort Myers, Clearwater, Tampa, those kind of stuff? Yeah, absolutely. So that's where I'd like to be. A bunch of more towns.
Radio in the Midwest is different. Sometimes it can be a little more juvenile and lowbrow. You know what I mean?
Interesting. I can't tell you. I've been here too long. I have no idea.
Like, I worked for a show in Cleveland that basically it's just the guy that copies Howard that makes fun of people. And you don't really see that in Florida. To me, the true talent is when you go from being a 90s shock jock to reinventing yourself, which is why I respect your show and a lot of the people from the morning show boot camp. You see true talent when you quit doing the same shock jock crap, we
all go through those that shock jock thing, I think, early in our careers. And I think I listen to what we are doing now on the air. It's like just 3 or 4 buddies sitting around having a few laughs and joking and busting each other's chops. I love what our show sounds like now compared to what it was 10 years ago even.
Now, where can people find your show if they're not in Miami and they want to listen to the Paul and Young Ron show?
iHeartRadio. Just look us up, iHeartRadio, Paul and Young Ron. Our website is paulandyoungron.iheart.com. But basically, if you go to iHeart and put our names in, we got our own channel.
Nice, man. Well, keep up the good work. I had a fun time hanging out with you at the Morning Show Boot Camp, and this has been a lot of fun having you on the show. I appreciate you being on the show, Paul.
Now, when can I have you on my show?
I would be honored. Whenever you want me, it would be an honor to be on the Paul and Young Ron show.
Let me know when the podcast is going to hit, and then we'll pump it up.
It'll be up in about 25 minutes because I'm really good at editing it.
All right. Then I'll reach out, have my producer reach out or whatever, and we'll get you on and talk about it. Okay, bro?
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, Paul.
See you at boot camp.
Sounds good. Have a good day.
Hoppe Hour. Hoppe Hour.